I was telling Lanny, and Lanny's on the phone, the thing that bothered me the most was that he brought Lanny into the conversation, which has nothing to do with whether or not Lanny Poffo gets on a plane. That's none of Greg's business to talk about.
Not only that,
Lanny.
but he also sent me text messages insulting Lanny too, and I forwarded those texts to Lanny. So it's like, why is Lanny an idiot for attending his own brother's memorial show? Why does that make Lanny an idiot? And then this apology message that Greg Valentine wrote to the fans on his Facebook page, he did not apologize once to Lanny. What is his excuse? You should put Greg Valentine on the phone right now. You have his number?
Oh, he won't answer. He hasn't answered now in a couple of 3 or 4 weeks. He never calls. I left him. I did text him though, and I said, if you want to help clear this up, send the man back his money. And he texted me back and said, I appreciate you standing beside me on this. Well, I'm not really standing beside you because you owe this man the money, and you called my friend Lanny Poffo a derogatory name that was none of. Lanny, you're listening. It had nothing to do with you.
Well, no, it had nothing to do with Lanny. He's jealous of Lanny. He's jealous because Lanny was an underneath guy who made less money than Greg made, but Greg wasted all of his money, and now Lanny's actually quite wealthy, and Greg has nothing. That's the whole reason why he threw Lanny into this.
Well, Lanny, I learned a lot from being around Lanny and Randy, and I managed my money as I could squeeze bark off a tree also, and I'm proud to say that everything I have, I don't have to reach down and crawl to anyone, and whatever I've made, I've earned, and I kept.
So, yeah, Lanny, I'm sorry I interrupted you. Say your part.
No, I'm just saying, what's wrong with getting up early and going to the airport? What's wrong with getting on a couple of planes? And, at my age, I mean, let's face it, I'm going to be 57 years old. My wrestling skills are diminishing fast. And I am very grateful for anybody that books me and whatever money comes my way. And I'll tell you something, too. I love wrestling. I enjoy it. I always have a good time, and it makes me feel young. Plus, I was there to honor my brother. Let's get a grip here. There are people that are coal miners, and they get up early, and they go down in the coal mines, and they do that for a living. There are other people who are lumberjacks that risk their lives, and there's commercial fishermen. Wrestling is a cake life. I got to travel all over the world. It didn't cost me a dime, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. Of course, at my age, like, for example, Saturday morning, I'm leaving for Sacramento, California, just to sign autographs with my very good friend, Bushwhacker Luke. I am appreciative that people still bring me in for this, and I love the fans, and I treat them very nice. I don't think Greg Valentine has any respect for the fans. I don't think he has any respect for himself. And the reason, Devin, he doesn't pay you back his money, the money that you gave him, is because if he's had the money in his hands more than 24 hours, it's gone. He's like a heroin addict, and you can't expect, a person like, he's like financially, he's like Amy Winehouse, or Jake the Snake Roberts, and he can't be accountable for any of his actions. And yet he has the audacity to call me an idiot. Well, that's why I challenged him. And Devin, you know very well that I feel a little bit badly that I mentioned his wife because it's a little below my style. But I am definitely afraid that he won't show up on December 30th. And that's why I had to resort to that. In other words, I took the low road on that one. But I wanted to make sure he showed up so I could kill him.
He still won't show up. Like, we're not promoting this as a match. We don't expect him to show up. We know he's a coward, and he knows that Lanny could beat him for real in a match. Greg is not that stupid. He knows Lanny's in better shape. Greg moves slower than a turtle, and Greg's too lazy to train for it. whereas Lanny would train for it. But going back to the flights, he had his flight for weeks. Is it my problem that he didn't look at the flight until a day before? Like, Honky, I know whenever I book you on a show, you ask to see the flight before I even book it.
Absolutely. You always do that. You send me a copy of everything beforehand, and I look at it, and if it looks like it's going to work for me, I say, go ahead, Devin, it looks good, let's go with it, and we run with it. If you don't like it, tell the guy. Don't call the guy the day before the show and say, I don't like this, I'm not going to do this, and then, oh, and by the way, if you don't send me more money, I'm definitely not going to do it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of wrong things. Or then to start, like I said, the real problem I have is the fact that he brought in, which I consider a good friend of mine, Lanny Poffo. He brought his name into the conversation that was totally not even, it's not necessary because it had nothing to do with Lanny at all.
It makes me wonder if the whole reason he didn't show up is because he had some secret personal issue with Lanny, and he knew he wasn't going to go over in the match since it was Lanny's brother's memorial show. Well, I honestly wonder if that has anything to do with it.
I don't know. I don't think so. But like Lanny said, and my friend too, Lanny's friend and my friend Jeff Archer from San Diego, California. Jeff had called me to come and do the show with Lanny out there about 5 years ago, and I was already booked, and I told Jeff I was booked, and so he says, okay. So he talked to Lanny, and Lanny actually recommended Greg for the show in California. That he stiffed that guy on.
It's really sad that Greg does this, but the reason we're coming out about this is because we don't want it to happen to any other promoters. If he wants to do it to me, I don't want him to do it to anybody else. I want it to stop here.
I know, but there, as P.T. Barnum would say, or as Vince McMahon would probably say, there is a sucker born every minute.
Hey, I just take offense, like, as a guy that I've driven with, that he lied to me, because we all know I'm more of a wrestler than a promoter. So that he lied to me as a wrestler really angers me. And that he insulted Lanny really angers me. Unfortunately, I can't beat him up myself.
Well,
but Lanny can. Lanny can. He can.
Devin, I do have that date open on my calendar, but Lanny and I are definitely not going to do a shoot fight, but I would be more than happy to. Lanny and I are a great tag team, and we proved that for you on one of your other shows.
Well, I'll probably be getting back to you on that. We don't know if it's going to happen. We're going to hear what Greg has to say back, but as I said, I have a feeling we're not going to hear anything from Greg.
I think it's going to end up like Abdullah the Butcher. You're not going to hear very much.
No, we still haven't heard from Abdullah, by the way. Surprise.
Anyway,
can I just bring up one trivial thing? This means nothing, but he didn't want to go to Canadian Customs because they always mess with him. He used the F word.
And what an excuse to take somebody's money. I don't like Canadian Customs either.
Why didn't you tell me that before he accepted it?
They ask you the same three questions. Hello, who are you, where are you going, and why?
Exactly.
And all you got to do is say Lanny, wrestling, and payoff, and then they let you in. So it's not that hard. I've never been turned down at any border. Sometimes they ask you 4 questions, but it depends. It depends if you got a Barney Fife or Andy Griffith, So
Exactly. And we all know the answers to all the questions, no matter what they ask us. So that's not an issue. I mean, that to me is a non-issue. But to ask for more money, and this is what I told them. I sent Greg. I even told Beefcake today. I said, if you talk to Greg, tell him to send the man back his money, and he owes Lanny Poffo an apology.
He does owe Lanny. He needs to give Lanny a public apology. If he's not mad enough to fight Lanny, which he really should, he has to at least apologize to Lanny publicly.
Well,
throwing his name into something that Lanny had nothing to do with.
Did you see how it started with the work interview about the advertising? I'm going to be September 3rd in Osbury, the first interview?
Yeah, we all saw that.
Yeah, he says, Randy was a very good friend of mine. That was his first lie. Randy hated him. Randy didn't like him. Randy knew he was a low-class scumbag. And, they lived in the same town. He never darkened Randy's door. Randy never invited him. Randy had 11 cameras on his computer. He could see everybody. And, he didn't, the gates didn't open unless he approved of your visit. So I'm just saying, Randy never liked him. And I just want Randy to be proud of me. What would Randy do? Randy would challenge him to a shoot. That's what he was famous for. And I'm sorry that I mentioned his wife, but I want you to know I did it because I'm deathly afraid he won't show up. And I want him to show up. It's like important to me. Life is just one. I have no guarantee that I'm going to be alive next year any more than you do. But it sure would be fun to beat his ass, wouldn't it?
You know what? I might just fly up there myself to watch that. But it's like you said, I'm not sure whether or not there would be somebody get off the plane that looks like him. I wouldn't put my money on that bet.
And some people said, well, no MMA commission would sanction that match. Well, in Gatineau, there's an amateur MMA commission, and amateur MMA, they're 8-ounce gloves instead of 5-ounce, and they have to fight in kick pads. But there's still no headgear. There's very little medical testing before the fights. So the match could actually happen if Greg agreed to it. That's not a factor. Would it be like the UFC 5-ounce gloves, though, and they would wear kick pads? But Lanny could still beat the crap out of them.
Well,
but there would be MMA referees. This would not be a wrestling MMA match. I will actually hire MMA referees to take care of this match. It will be a real fight.
And I'll tell you something.
Go ahead, Lanny.
Okay. I don't mean to be immature, but let's have a little fun because, you've got 100,000 listeners. I've got an idea that Greg can I'm going to make him a millionaire. You know how?
How's that?
I want to shave his head, bring him to Hollywood, and he'll be the new Jabba the Hutt.
Lanny, you're killing me, man. You guys are killing me. But anyway, I'm so glad you joined us tonight, and we got the air cleared out, and hopefully he will send back everything, apologize, and show up for the shoot fight. And
don't send back the money. He can buy, if he doesn't like the flights that I buy him, he can take that money and he can buy himself a first-class flight. There are no direct flights. He can buy a first-class flight, and he can fight Lanny on my show. He can make up for everything that way. He can show that he's reliable. He can show he's a man of his word, and he can take the beating that he deserves. Because in this case, I don't think a forced apology is acceptable. He needs to take his medicine. You can't just go running your mouth about people and not expect any payback.
Well, that's true. That's true. And Devin, you don't sound like the typical Canadian now when you're talking about that kind of stuff because most Canadians are somewhat of a docile type of an environment up there. But I think right now I saw you and Lanny down on the floor in a building one night, and
you don't want to get back into that. That's over. But the thing about that incident was, I didn't know that was Lanny's only clothes. I didn't know his baggage was lost. So I ripped off his only shirt, and that's why Lanny got mad at me, and it all got out of hand. But the thing is, Lanny was a man. I'm twice his size, and he at least confronted me about it.
Yes,
like Greg Valentine. Do you think Greg Valentine would talk to me like that in person for 1 second?